Okay, so this battle took half an hour in real time. Probably more, since I wasn't constantly jamming buttons. Anyways, the video is like 15 minutes long, so this is a reminder that you can play it at a faster speed, even 1.25, 1.5. Raikou is actually a pretty easy opponent for Lanturn, despite Raikou's insane stats. Basically, the only calm-minding Raikous don't have any moves beside Thunderbolt, which really helps because for things like the Palace Maven Suicune, Lanturn is definitely my go-to, as it can take a +6 Surf pretty well because it resists it, but you really gotta look out for the critical hits, because if your opponent crits and you don't heal up fast enough, it could be trouble. So this Lanturn is Calm Nature, which means it'll use a defensive move, Amnesia or Rest, 50% of the time. When it gets put below half, its percentages get up to 62% defensive and 13% to be a support move. This works out really well as Amnesia plus Rest allow you to tank almost any special attacker. Especially considering grass moves, the only thing that it's weak to, are super weak in this generation. I mean, can you think of a strong special attacker that's grass? Okay, Leaf Blade from Sceptile is actually really scary because it also has a high chance of critical hitting. I was going to focus on Lanturn for a while, but actually this brings up a great point. This team's typing synergies are insanely well thought out, as Salamence and Skarmory both quad resist grass type moves, and they both have flying type attacks that allow them to take out grass types rather efficiently. Back to Lanturn, the fact that it rests and Amnesia so frequently is what allows it to so consistently survive. Also, it helps that it can tank at least 3 or 4 attacks from most special attackers, even with only 1 Amnesia boost. Which is great because then you stall indefinitely until one time you actually hit a Toxic. The problem is the math on the PP, because you have a 1 in 10 chance to use Toxic normally, actually higher. But then you basically use 3 Amnesias and 16 Rests. The math here is that you only become a 95% chance to use a Toxic after 30 moves. Luckily, that's counting the 20% of the time that you don't move at all. But the fact that Toxic doesn't have perfect accuracy is a huge pain. So you actually end up PP stalling most opponents, because Rest can act like 3 moves where you fall asleep and you don't move for 3 turns, so you save the PP. For this reason, I actually consider using a Lepa Berry on Lanturn to refill its Rest. But that first extra 2 moves that you get when you do the Chesto Berry can actually save you when you don't have many Amnesias up. That math I just spouted on Toxic was if you didn't even have Confused Ray. Speaking of, you might not even need Confused Ray. Originally it was there just for Steel and Poison types, but those are mostly physical anyways, which are really handled by Skarmory and Salamence. So bringing Salamence here is kind of so-so. It can probably outfight most Registeel, but this Ice Punch reveals exactly which Registeel it is. There's only one with Ice Punch. Anyways, if you notice, Salamence didn't move that first turn. The odds of Salamence staying in and being able to take out Registeel in 2 turns were about 30%. So that really wasn't the smartest switch in, considering it's known that Registeel has Clear Body and Intimidate wasn't going to do anything. Anyways, my next mistake was not looking up this Registeel because I stayed in until I figured out that it had Thunderbolt. This Registeel has a quiet nature, which means it'll attack smartly 56% of the time, randomly 22% of the time, and do nothing at all another 22% of the time, because it's 4 attacking moves. So as you can see, I've devised a bait and switch tactic, where Lanturn baits out the Earthquakes and Skarmory baits out Thunderbolts. Taking no damage and having leftovers means Skarmory heals 1/16 per turn this way, while with Volt Absorb, Lanturn heals 25%. There's a 6% chance that Registeel will use the wrong move and Earthquake my Lanturn or Thunderbolt my Skarmory. So you just have to hope in however many moves that it takes to stall out the PP of Earthquake or Thunderbolt, that Registeel doesn't accidentally hit my Lanturn or my Skarmory before they can heal up. Because they can both take the blow and then heal back. Salamence actually has a very specific EV spread that gets its speed up so it's fast enough even without a Dragon Dance, and then really emphasizes special defense after attack. Salamance's role is mostly to be an intimidator to help handle mixed attackers, but also to deal with some Pokemon that you just can't let set up. For example, if a Marowak starts Swords Dancing, you can't hope to stall it out. You basically have to switch into Salamence and hope you kill it first. In a lot of cases, you really need to be counting the number of moves your opponent uses, but that is such a pain. On the other hand, when a single battle takes half an hour, and your collective win streak has taken you days and days, it doesn't seem like that big of a hassle. It's a lot easier for 5 PP moves like Ancient Power or Fissure or Overheat or Extreme Speed. Getting to the final Pokemon with all 3 of ours surviving is really important because we never know what we need to handle the last Pokemon. 4 out of 9 Latios carry Thunderbolt, and all 4 of those have Ice Beam, although only 2 of those have Earthquake. The 2 with Earthquake are both attacking nature, which has the same attacking probability as the Registeel before it. So 56% to attack with a smart move, 22% with a random move, and 22% to not move at all. For this battle, I can actually utilize Salamence and switch it in on Earthquakes to get off some Intimidates to make the Earthquakes that do hit Lanturn a little more useful. For this battle, I can actually utilize Salamence and switch it in on Earthquakes to get off some Intimidates to make the Earthquakes that do hit Lanturn a little more useful. Although I am waiting until Lanturn has enough HP to survive a -1 Earthquake, because before then there's really no point to risking Salamence on a random move. The idea being that if Lanturn or Skarmory dies, I can switch Salamence in and try and win in 2 attacks. The odds are pretty stacked against us for this Latios because it's going to take 9 to 11 turns for Skarmory to heal enough to survive another Thunderbolt. This analysis is definitely making me consider removing Confuse Ray, because if that Confuse Ray on Latios had been a Toxic, I'm pretty sure that game would have been mine. Also, you notice my misplay of switching Salamence into Registeel really hurt me there, because Salamence, while it couldn't have survived an Ice Beam, it could have survived that Thunderbolt that Latios ended up using. Regardless, the physical defense on my Lanturn isn't perfect, so I'm breeding for a better one, but that should take about 2,000 eggs, which could be a couple months. Which is about how long this Skarmory took. Because you're not just going for perfect defenses and the right nature, you also need to get the right ability too.